There are mechanics in America with the Snap-on logo tattooed on their arms. One of them got it as a memorial, a wrench inked for his late grandfather. That's not brand loyalty, that's religion. Now here's the question this film asks. What kind of tool company inspires tattoos? And what kind of tool company earns a 69% profit margin? Not on tools, on debt. Because according to Snap-on's own filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the most profitable thing this company sells isn't a ratchet, it's a loan. This is the story of the most brilliant retail machine in American history. A store on wheels that shows up at your job every week on payday. A brand mechanics worship. A stock that's paid dividends without a break since 1939. And a $2.5 billion credit book, charging mechanics interest rates that would make a credit card blush. Genius? Trap? By the end of this video, you'll see it's both. And that's exactly why it works. Milwaukee, 1920. Joseph Johnson and William Seidman have a genuinely great idea. Wrenches at the time are one solid piece. One handle, one socket, one size. Johnson's pitch: make the sockets interchangeable. 10 sockets that snap onto 5 handles. The slogan wrote itself, 5 to the work of 50. It works. By 1925, Snap-on has 17 branches and 165 salesmen. And notice that word, salesmen, not stores. From the very beginning, Snap-on doesn't wait for mechanics to come shopping. It goes to them, demonstrates on their bench, sells face-to-face. Direct selling isn't a tactic here, it's the company's DNA. Then the Great Depression hits. And this is where the story quietly becomes our story. It's the early 1930s. Nobody has money. A struggling tool company has 2 options: cut prices, or find another way. Snap-on's other way was one of the most consequential decisions in retail history. Time payments. Buy the tools now, pay a little every week. In the depths of the Depression, Snap-on discovered that a broke customer isn't a lost sale, he's an interest-bearing asset. Hold that thought for about 90 years. After World War II, an executive named Newton Tarble perfects the machine. Weekly routes, a dealer in a walk-in van, visiting the same shops, the same mechanics every single week. To understand why this is genius, you have to understand how mechanics get paid. A flat-rate mechanic gets paid per job. Every minute he's not turning wrenches, he's losing money. He physically cannot leave the shop to go tool shopping. So Snap-on brought the store to the bay door, stocked, gleaming, in time to payday. And the weekly visit does something else. It turns every purchase into a payment plan. $10 a week feels like nothing. It also never, ever ends. Inside that truck, the tools are theater. Polished chrome under lights, tool chests bigger than refrigerators. Some cost more than the cars they'll be fixing, and your coworkers are watching what you buy. In shops across America, the Snap-on box becomes a status symbol. Some shop owners literally judge a mechanic's professionalism by his toolbox. The company's own website celebrates customers with Snap-on tattoos. This is not a customer relationship, it's a congregation. And to be fair, and this matters, the tools are genuinely excellent, professional-grade steel. On-the-spot warranty swaps from the truck, tools that survive 30 years of daily abuse. The faith isn't irrational. That's precisely what makes what comes next so effective. Because by the late 1980s, cracks appear. Between 1988 and 1991, waves of dealers sue the company, alleging misrepresented profits and pressure to extend ever more credit. And in 1991, Snap-on converts its independent dealers into franchisees. The company's stated reason, in its own history, greater control. Now we open the books. Everything you're about to hear comes from Snap-on's own filings with the SEC. In 1999, Snap-on creates Snap-on Credit, a lending joint venture. And in 2009, as its partner CIT collapses in the financial crisis, Snap-on buys out their half for roughly $8.2 million. $8 million. Arguably the best money this company ever spent, because that purchase turned Snap-on into a fully in-house bank, and the loan book starts to grow. And grow. Here's what that bank looks like today. In fiscal 2024, Snap-on's financial services segment reported $401 million of revenue and $277 million of operating profit. That is a 69% operating margin. The division that actually sells tools, 22.5%. Selling money is 3 times more profitable than selling steel. The average yield on Snap-on's finance receivables, again, their own filing, is 17.7%, on average terms of 4 years. Mechanics on forums report rates from 15 to 30% on extended credit. To be precise, the basic weekly truck account is genuinely interest-free. The real machine is the extended credit, the big boxes, the big balances, the contracts with liens attached. But here's the layer most people miss, and it's the darkest part of the design. The mechanic isn't the only borrower, the dealer is too. Starting a Snap-on franchise costs between $200,000 and $500,000. The franchise fee itself, only $8,000 to $16,000. The rest is the truck and the inventory. And Snap-on will happily finance both. The van, the stock, even the loan to buy the franchise. Snap-on earns on the tool, earns on the mechanic's loan, and earns on the dealer's loan. Every layer of the pyramid pays interest to Kenosha. And the machine keeps feeding. In 2024 alone, Snap-on originated nearly $1 billion in new credit, $966 million. Meanwhile, the money it set aside for loans going bad jumped 24% in a single year to $71 million. When your bad loan reserve grows 4 times faster than your sales, that's not a tool company having a slow year, that's a lender watching its borrowers strain. And when a dealer fails, industry watchers estimate hundreds of routes are reacquired by the company every year and resold to the next hopeful buyer. In 2006, Snap-on paid a reported $38 million to settle a class action brought by its own franchisees. One veteran dealer's warning to newcomers posted publicly, "You are Snap-on's runner. They put you in business, and they can take you out at any time." The debt reaches into families. Lawyers for former dealers won rulings on behalf of dealers' wives. Spouses pulled into franchise guarantees. There's a documented story of a dealership technician whose tool debt, stacked on an injury and a divorce, helped push him into bankruptcy. The boxes he financed cost as much as a new car. Then the internet showed up with a torque tester. YouTube channels started putting $80 ratchets against $300 Snap-ons on measurement rigs. Blind. On camera. Sometimes Snap-on wins. A Snap-on torque wrench held near perfect calibration after 1,000 cycles. But sometimes, and this is the part that terrifies a Mystique, the cheap tool matches it. Harbor Freight's Icon Ratchet Out pulled its Snap-on equivalent on the brake test. And a new generation of mechanics is preaching on TikTok and Reddit. Stay off the truck. Understanding your tool truck debt has become its own content genre. One viral complaint put it simply, $50 a week for life. The company's own numbers show the squeeze. In 2023 and 2024, tool sales to technicians actually declined. Spooked customers avoiding big financed purchases. Financial services revenue kept climbing. Read that again. Fewer tools, more interest. When the product slows down and the lending doesn't, you learn what the machine really runs on. None of this makes Snap-on a villain from a cartoon. Its major tool lines are still forged in American plants: Wisconsin, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina. Its CEO went on television in 2025 to argue against broad tariffs, saying American workers don't need them. The company has paid a dividend without interruption since 1939, through a world war, stagflation, and 2 crashes. As a business, it is a masterpiece. And for investors, Snap-on is the quiet kind of rich, a $20 billion company that most people outside a repair shop have never thought about. Here's the nuance the fans skip though. Over the last decade, the stock actually lagged the S&P 500, 12.8% a year against 15.5%. The market pays a premium for growth. Snap-on doesn't sell growth, it sells patience, and collects interest. That's the uncomfortable truth at the heart of the tool truck. It was built on working-class pride, and it runs on working-class debt. The same weekly visit that made a broke apprentice feel like a professional is the same weekly visit that keeps him writing checks for a decade. 100 years ago, Snap-on's founders had a beautiful idea about wrenches. 5 could do the work of 50. Their heirs discovered something even more powerful. That one customer, financed at 17.7%, can do the work of 5. The tools are real, the pride is real, and so is the interest. If this felt familiar, it should. Last episode we covered Craftsman, the brand that beat Snap-on in independent tests right before its owner killed it. That's the other side of the same story. What happens when a tool brand is run by marketers instead of toolmakers? Watch it next. And whatever you do this week, pay cash on the truck.